Morning, members. I just want to check the background for me because I am not at home. I'm not in Acacia. So let me check. If it's not good, I will just concentrate on having them switching off my video. Are we correcting? Lwazi?
Good morning, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, we do have a quorum, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee of Public Works and Infrastructure, our support team from Parliament that prepared for this meeting, the media, and all those that are watching our Portfolio Committee and on our first meeting this term. Greetings to you all. For those that believe in God, thank you, God, that we are here. For those that believe in Allah, thank you, Allah, that we are here. And for those that believe in Kamata, siyabonga Kamata ngoba usigcinile kwada kwangoku. Honorable members, before I do some few words, I want us to look at our agenda. And I propose that we add an item there, Lwazi, maybe after looking at our minutes, whether it should be an announcement or what, but our Honorable Ekhuruleni is leaving us, being promoted to be a shadow minister in the Portfolio Committee of Health. So I want the Portfolio Committee to say a few words in saying goodbye to her and in congratulating her on this new appointment by her political party. We have spent so many years with her, so we can't let her go without saying any few words. So I just want to put that, whether it's an announcement, but it must be an item that will deal with it. Before we do the closing remarks, can we do that? Okay, thank you, honorable members. The reality is that we left with few months before this sixth administration ends. Before many ups and downs as the Portfolio Committee administration, but one thing for sure, we've always been united and singing before many ups and downs as the that affected the administration. But one thing for sure, we've always united and singing before many ups and downs that affected the administration. But one thing for sure, we've ready to tackle all the issues that we'll be dealing with. And I know that one of the things we have raised some of the issues even during when we were on recess. I remember Honorable Sihlolo reminding me that there is a report that we have not received from the department in which we wanted to know about some properties, and as such, that report was sent to all the members after the department has responded. That shows clearly, honorable members, that even when we are on constituent period, we don't forget that there is work that we have to do as the Portfolio Committee in demanding the reports that are due to us, and those reports that are due to us. It's because of the deliberations that we have done in the Portfolio Committee and the information that we have requested from the department. I hope that even though we are at the tail end of this administration, we won't stop playing our role, demanding what is due to us as the Portfolio Committee, playing our oversight role in ensuring that, especially when it comes to the public purse, the department is doing due diligence. With those few words, honorable members and our team, I welcome you all in this Portfolio Committee. Please bear with me on my hoarse voice. You know, when there is a change of season, some of us, you will find out that we have this small changes due to fever. Sometimes the way the nature works, it does that. So on those few words, I'm welcoming you all in our Portfolio Committee meeting. There are two issues that we are going to deal with. The study tour that we went to representing the portfolio committee. Yes, it was successful, but the reality is that we, as the leader of this portfolio committee, I wanted all the members to go, but unfortunately, due to budget constraints, the number was limited, and I'm really sorry for the members that didn't go. And the second one is the issue of the police station in Ekhuruleni. That report, honorable members, I know we did a lot dealing with it, but it has to be deliberated and discussed in the plenary. So we were advised that we have to bring it back to us so that we note and adopt it for it to be deliberated, not just noting it as if it's all and done with. So that's why it has come back to our portfolio committee. Any apologies, Lwazi? Any apologies, even if they have been sent to other members?
Good morning, Chairperson. I did not receive any apologies, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Any apologies that maybe have sent to whips of different committees? I do have an apology of Honorable Siwisa, indicating that she will be traveling today to Durban, and she will be landing at 10. Not sure whether she is in the meeting. If she is not in the meeting, I believe that it's due to the flight that she indicated that she'll be traveling, and will join the meeting once she is out of the flight. Oh, okay. She is indicating that she is present. Oh, okay. She didn't say to me that I will be present. It's only the message that she sent, and she sent it last week. Thank you so much, Honorable Siwisa. Can we then deal with the report from Singapore?
Chair, my hand is up.
Oh, Honorable Ekhuruleni.
With your indulgence, Chair, I invited my replacement, Honourable Wendy Alexander, to join our group. She has joined on this meeting so that she can just get to know everybody before I leave. And I just want to introduce her, if she put on her video, just so that you can say hello to her before the meeting even started, with your indulgence, Chair.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know. I think my team has failed me, because they should have told me who is replacing you. They didn't. I think Ms. Martinez and Lwazi, you have failed me on this one. Let's welcome Honorable is it to Alexander. Honorable Alexander, you are most welcome in the committee. Let's deal with her introduction in the later part of the meeting, when we are dealing with the congratulatory words on you, Honorable Ekhuruleni. But let's start now with the report. Thank you for raising that to me, Honorable Alexander. You are most Honorable Wendy. You are most welcome. Thank you so much. Can you flight the report on the screen? And I understand that Lwazi managed to send it to all the members earlier on. Can you flight the...
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, as well as my colleagues. Chair, please forgive me. I'm also in the same boat as yourself. I have terrible flu that's just not wearing off. But I'll carry on as much as I can. Honorable Chairperson, at this point, I'll just deal with I'll just deal with the first page of the report, and then hand over to my colleague, Mr. Denason, to deal with the introduction. Then I come back into the actual study tour report. And Honorable Chair, just before anything else, I'd like to also request the chairperson to release me after the report has been adopted, because we had 3 oversight visits as the ad hoc joint committee on flood disaster relief and recovery. So as part of the team that was supporting that side, I would need to then submit the reports this week. So I'm actually working on those. So hence I'm humbly requesting the chairperson to release me as soon as the report has then been dealt with in this committee meeting. Chair, the portfolio committee went to, as Director has rightfully alluded, in Singapore on the 24th to the 28th of July. The attendees were 5 members of parliament, the chairperson included, Honorable Mjobo, Honorable Mashele, Honorable Hicklin, as well as Honorable Siwisa. Supported by myself, Ms. Martinez, who's the committee secretary for PC on PWI. With our delegation, we were also joined by the chief executive officers of the 4 public works entities, namely Mr. Somanje from Agrima SA, Ms. T. Malaka from IDT, Dr. Msizi Miyeza from the CBE, as well as Mr. Bongani Dladla from the CIDB. The CIDB had 3 representatives. It was also accompanied. They were also accompanied by the chairperson of the board, Mr. Kulenzo, and as well as the CFO, Mr. Sison Tsibande. The reason why the entities joined our study tour, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, is because of the role that they play. They play a regulatory, standard setting and certifying role in the construction, professional built environment, and building material and system development sectors. So the oversight role of the committee over those entities assisted in a close working relationship with the entities. So the chairperson then instructed that it would benefit the entities to be exposed to lessons from Singapore that would enhance their work in the sector. At this point, Chair, I'll pause and head over to my colleague, Mr. Denason, to go through the introduction. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Chair, right up front, this little cough that I've got, I apologize. It's one of those things that's going on around these days. Chair, the objective of this study tour was for us to, as a committee that oversees the portfolio, the department that is our accommodator and our construction and project management and infrastructure development department. It was important for us, Chair, in a terrain where we struggle with inequality, poverty, and unemployment, what we popularly refer to in the policy world as the triple challenge. And the construction industry and large infrastructure projects has been identified as a catalyst to stimulate economic growth. And for that catalyst to work, there needs to be a partnership between government and private sector. And we saw Singapore as a particular case, an example in the world where government and the private sector work hand in hand to using infrastructure projects, construction projects, etc., with a particular type of funding model, different type of funding models, to unlock this policy objective of dealing with inequality, poverty, and unemployment. Wazi, if you can just page slightly so I can have this paragraph right on top. So we refer here to the South African Investment Conference that was held in 2023 April, where our president committed 1.2 billion over the next 5 years for this policy objective. And so over a cycle of 5 years, 1.5 trillion was already committed by private industry and private sector, not just in South Africa, but across the world. There is a website, the report has it right at the bottom, where you can see these commitments from the private sector that made it possible for us to have currently running 161 projects in the construction phase, or some of them in planning, but in the construction phase definitely, and some in fact close to completion. In the budget speech for this financial year, the Minister of Finance emphasized the importance of these investments as infrastructure projects, and we use his words, and we're quoting him saying, it lays the foundation for inclusive and sustainable growth, and it addresses supply-side constraints and expands access to basic services. So clearly, infrastructure is not just a catalyst for inequality, poverty, to fight inequality, poverty, and unemployment, but also it assists with basic services being brought closer to the people where they live. Because we have a huge backlog in especially poor areas and underdeveloped areas in both urban and rural areas. Our country is therefore in a focused drive to increase large infrastructure projects across the country as a catalyst for growth, as we said, and it's committed to using private sector resources to strengthen state capacity to amplify infrastructure delivery, and that includes social infrastructure delivery. Our huge challenge that we have is how do we've got the legislative and regulatory measures, but how do we create an interactive space that facilitates collaboration between senior government officials and the private sector? And that is the reason why it was so important there's just one error that I noticed, Lwazi, as we are here, you may take that S from require. Yeah, just delete that, great stuff. And so while those measures are there, we need as a country to get to a space where we are able to use public-private partnerships in infrastructure projects. And in Singapore, it worked well. So the strategic objective, therefore, was to visit focused infrastructure and construction development projects that's been used as a catalyst for economic growth and to address local challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. It was to connect local challenges, in other words, South Africa's local triple challenge, with how Singapore addressed similar challenges through public-private partnerships, long-term planning instruments, joined-up action, and one-stop government service centers. Just, Lwazi, as your page, just in reference to the one-stop service centers, we have a meeting set up. Plug my power in. There we go. We have a meeting set up in this term, department, to also come and update us on the one-stop government service centers in our country. So the focused areas for the visit was public-private partnerships in construction and infrastructure. The committee wanted to visit such sites, but also wanted to listen to Singapore, our counterparts, about how whether they have different triple P models, how they access fundings for projects through blended financing, because that's what we use. And so we wanted to see that. And then how they address challenges with construction project management, because we face a challenge with that and different challenges with that. And then how oversight is done in Singapore over these different types of triple Ps. It's page, Lwazi. So the planning instruments of Singapore is very interesting. And planning with the aim of addressing poverty, unemployment, and inequality as a challenge in our country is important. And so the manner in which macro, micro, long, and short-term planning, and you can just put a hyphen between short and term, Lwazi, please, for successful delivery of infrastructure and construction projects. That was a key aspect that we wanted to see addressed in our visit. And so, because planning right at the start assists with getting a project off the off the papers, off the plans on paper, onto the ground and there for the people to use. Let's page, Lwazi. When we say joined up, we refer here to how human settlements, local government, human settlements, social services, a range of deliverables of government, it does not left to siloed departments that just work on their own. It's joined up in a sense that it assists completion, my apologies, and it assists us to get infrastructure in place for people to get services. So in our case, and this is why the chairperson invited the entities that reports to the minister with, and that is important because I'm certain the chair, even if we could have, as the chair said right at the beginning, taken more people with members as well as even some people from the department, but it wasn't possible. So having we listed the entities, and that's why it's important for them to be there. It's an opportunity to learn also about Infrastructure South Africa and the PMTTE in the department, how they can also learn lessons from what happened or happens in Singapore. Let's page, Lwazi. The other issue had to do with multi-energy microgrid network. That's a very innovative manner in which Singapore uses multiple sources of energy, very often natural energy, sun, solar, and all manners, including just the manner in which they use plants growing on the surfaces of buildings to ensure that the microclimate that plants create around itself cools buildings down. You can page up, Lwazi. One-stop government service centers, they've got a very interesting thing, and the body of the report will speak to that. Nola will deal with the specifics of that in the report from now onwards. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Shuaib. I think Nola.
Thank you, Chairperson. Shuaib, it's been Nola that's been scrolling, not Lwazi. That's why I would get stuck sometimes because you'd be calling Lwazi's name and not me.
My apologies, Lwazi Martinez. My apologies.
There's no way.
Yeah, I'm giving you a new baptizing. Apologies, Chair. Apologies, members.
Apologies, Honorable Chairperson. All right, so honorable members, we're now zooming into the actual study tour, as in what happened when we, from the first day of our program until the very last day. Perhaps I should also make a point that in terms of the program that we drafted prior to traveling to Singapore, we had items that we listed in areas that we would have initially wanted to visit while in Singapore. However, the program kept on changing depending on the availability of those entities that we required, or based on the discretion of the High Commission, because at times they would then have some areas that they deemed fit, or rather they thought would be beneficial for us to listen to presentation from and also visit. So that's why you would also find that this section of the report may not entirely speak to the initial program that was sent before the delegation traveled to Singapore. So on day one, we basically met with the South African High Commissioner, Her Excellency Charlotte Lobe. She was also accompanied by the Deputy High Commissioner, Mr. Mutsilidi, as well as the First Secretary, Mr. Makubele. The First Secretary was the one who was also assisting us in terms of coordinating everything on the other side, especially regarding to entities and other organizations to have engagements with. The discussions focus on the purpose of the program through which the delegation aimed to reach its objectives. The High Commissioner then took it upon herself to provide an overview of the work of the High Commission itself and its alignment with the purpose of the visit of the delegation. She also summarized the work of the High Commission in Singapore in terms of contributing towards the South African government's program based on 3 foundational pillars, which is 1, the strong and inclusive economic growth, 2, improving capabilities of South Africans, as well as capable ethical and developmental state. She also made mention, honorable members, that the pillars are basically taken from the focus, the 2030 focus of the South African government. So they have then found themselves within it and try to find means to actually make sure that those goals are achieved. The work of the High Commission also ensures that the DIRCO succeeds in its quest to be strategically placed and to make meaningful contributions towards tackling the triple challenges of South Africa, which is poverty, unemployment, and inequality, through Priority 7, which is a better Africa and world that contributes to the other priorities. So zooming into the role of the South African High Commission in Singapore, it's basically to ensure that South African foreign policy is given practical expressions through strengthening bilateral relations between South Africa and Singapore, promotion of South Africa's trade with Singapore, promotion of investments into various sectors of the South African economy, promotion of South Africa as a tourism destination, as well as strengthening people-to-people mechanisms. So if we get into each of these, honorable members, on number 1, in terms of the bilateral relations, the High Commission itself facilitates and coordinates high-level visits and engagements between South Africa and Singapore. This includes the Minister of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, the working visit to Singapore that was undertaken in July 2022, the visit of the Minister of Health in July 2022 as well, and the coordination of visits of high-level delegations from Parliament and legislatures. 2023 would mark the 30th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between SA and Singapore. The mission is already engaging the authorities in Singapore in an annual program to mark the milestone. And the program would then include outbound and inbound official working visits of His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa and His Excellency Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Public lectures at universities, a possible stamp by the Singapore Post Office in celebration of the 30 years of diplomatic relations, youth exchange programs, women trade and investment networking opportunities. And the High Commissioner also spoke at length about these ones. Apologies, Chair. South Africa and Singapore would engage in Foreign Office consultations, which would convene annually. That is co-chaired by the DDG with the Singapore counterpart. In between this high-level engagement, the mission continues to engage with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that is in Singapore. The significance of Singapore to South Africa. Singapore is both a maritime and aviation hub in the Southeast Asian region. It's basically a gateway into Asia. Major South African companies doing business in Asia have their headquarters in Singapore. Anglo American, for instance, which is a British-listed multinational mining company with headquarters in London, is the world's largest producer of platinum, a major producer of diamonds, copper, nickel, iron ore, polyhalite, and steelmaking coal. The company is its own largest commercial hub in Singapore. The significance is that the Anglo-American company uses Singapore as a logistic hub of commodities that are mined in South Africa. In terms of this impact of work, Singapore is a place from which South Africa distributes its commodities into various parts of the world. Apologies, Chair. Other companies such as information and communication technology companies, which is one of those companies is the Westcon Group. It has a foothold in both South Africa and Singapore. It delivers artificial intelligence solutions and seeks to serve markets within the Asian region. That is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations region. Cartrack in South Africa also uses a software and ICT management based. It's an ICT management based company. that is investing in Singapore. It has established itself in the software and ICT sector in research and development projects. They are planning to open a new R&D and innovation center in Singapore as well. Moving into the bilateral trade between South Africa and Singapore, based on the latest trade stats from the DIRCO, from the Department of Trade and Industry, it's called Trade, Industry and Competition, I think. Singapore is now ranked the 31st as Africa's biggest export destination in the rest of the world. Singapore is also ranked number 44 as the biggest supplier of imports sourced by South Africa from the world. It's also a significant investor in South Africa, which with investments totaling of about 28 billion rand, in sectors such as manufacturing, financial services, and real estate. South Africa is also engaged and encouraged Singaporean companies to invest in the country's renewable energy sector, which presents significant growth opportunities. We were also informed, honorable members, that one of the richest people in Singapore is basically a South African that operates in the financial services sector. So this actually augments the point that the High Commissioner was making with this bullet point. South Africa's economic relations towards Singapore are focused on trade investment, tourism promotion, as well as skills transfer. In view of Singapore's advanced degree of integration in the international economy and its dependence on foreign trade and investment, South Africa is regarded as an important market for Singaporean goods and services. It's also considered an important gateway for the export of goods and services to Southeast Asia and a major hub for joint venture partnerships through Asia. An example was also made on this one, Honorable Chairperson and members, that as we were at the hotel in Singapore, likelihood was that the fruits and some of the vegetables that we consumed while staying that side were most likely to be from South Africa as well. Bilateral trade flows between South Africa and Singapore. There are trends in total trade depicted on the table that I won't go into. In terms of improving impact in sectors that offer greatest opportunities for South Africa to increase its exports, SA has a capacity to export products from Singapore in the following sectors: agriculture, as I've just alluded to, especially fruits and vegetables, agro-processing industry, automotive industry, auto parts, health products, hide products, because hide products in particular, because Singapore does not have animals. They do not breed animals. They therefore depend on exported animal products to then deal with the need in that sector. Investment promotions. The South African High Commission in Singapore is targeting horizontal foreign direct investments or companies that establish the same type of business operation in a foreign country as it operates in its home country, as well as vertical DFIs that are looking at a possibility of diversifying into other sectors. And in order to attract investments into South Africa, the mission works with the Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Enterprise Singapore, South African Chamber of Commerce in Singapore, the Singapore Business Federation, and other identified government ministries and agencies. So the role of a diplomat has always been twofold: to both protect and to promote the interest of the home country. Whereas previously by emphasis was often placed on the former, in recent periods the mission is prioritizing the promotional aspect of investment, including working with the African missions in Singapore and coordinating joint investment promotions initiatives such as the Made in Africa conference that is scheduled to be held now. Honorable Chair, you will correct me if I'm wrong. I think the High Commissioner said now on the 30th or 31st of August, or on both days, but she did actually make mention of the fact that the conference will then be held at the end of August. And this is to promote Africa as a sourcing destination that offers new and growing markets for foreign enterprises. The mission has also used virtual platforms for investment forums, especially after COVID. So most of the physical engagements could not be held, and therefore the mission ventured into virtual interactions for most of these other ones. As the second largest producer of gold, as well as the world's top producer of chrome, manganese, platinum, vanadium, and vermiculite, it provides huge opportunities for Singaporean companies. These don't only provide plenty of export opportunities, but also investments in the area of mining and beneficiation of South African mineral resources. There are also investment opportunities identified in the area of coal, solid fuels. South Africa has also got a large developed metal industry together with its natural resources and supporting infrastructure. Supportive infrastructure represents profitable opportunities in the production of the export metals. SA is also recognized as a world leader in coal-based synthesis and gas-to-liquids technologies. Singaporean FDIs are then interested in this sector in particular. I think this would also speak to what the High Commissioner indicated earlier in terms of encouraging Singaporeans to invest in our renewable energy solutions. In terms of tourism promotion, since the opening of the economy following the devastation of the COVID-19, Singapore-based tourists have increased. In the month of August, I think about 243 tourists from Singapore have arrived in South Africa, and the number is increasing monthly as the festive season is approaching. We've also noticed that quite a number of South Africans as well, when it was reported as well that quite a number of South Africans are also visiting Singapore as a destination country for tourism. During the period under review, the Commission has also recorded 254 visa applications from non-Singaporean nationals who are visiting South Africa mainly for tourism purposes. South Africa ranks high on the Africa Most Top Travel Destination list in Singapore. This could be attributed to its national parks, safaris, the beauty of the countryside, the magnificent exteriors, the sunny climate, as well as the cultural diversity of its people. So the mission continues to collaborate with the South African Tourism Hub in Mumbai to promote South Africa and Singapore as an attractive tourist destination. As we know that, especially the UAE side, most Africans would travel ordinarily to Dubai and move to Mumbai in India. So from those areas, they are then channeled. Again, they are, or rather encouraged to channel their visits through to Singapore as well. Tourism is a major contributor to employment creation, particularly for women and the youth. South Africa also earns hard-earned currency from tourism. Consequently, tourism can lead to the reduction of poverty and the promotion of socio-economic development, as well as decent work. Looking into people-to-people mechanisms, specifically looking at promotion of women's participation in the mainstream economy. The work of the mission is anchored on a strong gender mainstreaming principle because women are a huge catalyst for socio-economic development. They are also innovators and creators of wealth on their own. The High Commissioner is very passionate about women and gender issues, so this is probably why she's also championing this area in the embassy as well, in the High Commission as well. The Commission is also working with social partners in Singapore and South Africa to create platforms for women's dialogue, collaboration in various sectors of the economy in order to promote women's economic and financial inclusion. During this period, the mission has been part of the Global Women Trade Summit that was organized in collaboration with the IR Women Federation for Commerce and Industry in Singapore, World Women Leading Change Seminar, which is the celebration of Women's Month, Virtual South Africa, which is Singapore Inaugural Women's Roundtable, which was part of the Women's Month in 2022. The mission is also working with women organizations both in Singapore and South Africa to promote available opportunities in trade and investment. This includes creating business networking and business matching opportunities between women in South Africa and in Singapore. Honorable Chair and members, the High Commissioner also mentioned that she had facilitated visits by the Youth Development Agency, the National Youth Development Agency, NYDA. There was a collaboration where a number of youth programs were held, championed by the current board chairperson of the NYDA. They also visited Singapore and had engagements with the mission. There was also a Mandela Day, which deals with the Global Youth Leadership Summit, as well as a bowling fundraising event where about 10,000 Singaporean dollars in pledged donations were made to support the Asian youth with mental health challenges. Currently, the NYDA and the Leadership Hub are finalizing the MOU that would lead to an annual exchange program between South African and Singaporean youth. So this is basically speaking to exactly what I spoke to after the visit of the NYDA board chair with a couple of young people from South Africa to Singapore. Then an MOU was drafted to just make it a permanent annual arrangement. In terms of skills transfers, the mission has collaborated with various stakeholders to promote cultural exchange programs. The Heritage Month was used to highlight cultural heritage of South Africa and Singapore through the virtual colloquium and international conference on cohesive society. The mission was also facilitating engagements with the science institutions and universities in both South Africa and Singapore. I know the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Technology also visited Singapore for basically this reason. In this context, the mission would then pursue an idea of science diplomacy that has now found resonance with the work currently undertaken by the South African Center for Science and International Research that is considering a science diplomacy hub that would coordinate initiatives within that industry. After each and every day, Chairperson, you'd notice on the report that after each and every engagement, we would have observations and findings on the actual report. So we observe that the mission promotes tourism for science, diplomacy purposes, research and development, and for people who want to do business or study in South Africa. So this would basically be a culmination of a whole host of things that I would have already presented, which are just lessons learned from the committee side. We also learned that it mostly imports computers, computer parts, semiconductors, integrated circuit boards, as well as microchips from Singapore. I've already spoken to the issue that Singapore has no animals, and this is due to because Singapore is a city state, so there's not much space or land to breed animals from. So they took a decision to just not breed animals at all. And in terms of agriculture, they're also looking into high-rise building, high-rise agriculture, because there's not enough land for them to produce. Currently, there are Singaporean companies that are doing oil and gas exploration in South Africa. That is in the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and the Free State provinces. I think it's here in the Western Cape, it's in Saldanha, if I'm not mistaken. Singaporean women are included in the mainstream economy and are quite wealthy because of this purpose, because of the reason. The High Commission is trying to link South African women and Singaporean business women for business integration and best practice exchange purposes. In construction, Singapore insists on compliance and fines that are imposed on contractors that fail to deliver projects on time and within budget. Enforcement is enhanced by the strict laws and regulations that govern Singapore. This came out of a discussion because during a deliberation session, members would pose questions which would be responded to. So one of the questions that I posed was how Singapore is able to deal with the construction mafia. I think it was something like that. Honorable Ekhuruleni is the one who may have posed that question. And so this is what was learned out of it, that Singapore has very strict regulations. They have very strict timelines. If a contractor is supposed to be on site from January to December and they go overboard and overspend, or rather underspend, or whichever way, they get fined for those. The High Commission at times faces challenges when trying to lobby for investors due to the challenges faced by South Africa. The current power crisis, for instance, and social unrest due to service delivery protests proved to be serious constraints. There was an example that was made that there was an investor that showed interest to invest in the hospitality sector in a hotel in the Western Cape, but when the July riots and looting transpired, starting from KZN and Gauteng in the main, the investor disappeared with no trace. So some of these challenges are basically have a negative impact in terms of the attraction of the investors into our country. The sentiment remains positive, though, in spite of all of this, the sentiment remains positive about South African investments, regardless of the challenges, because investors have faith in the constitution of the country and the justice system. Because of a natural affinity towards South Africa, Singapore does not see the current challenges as a threat, as I've said. There's no room and no tolerance for corruption in Singapore. Also, as an example of this, there was a minister who was alleged to have flouted some processes during the construction of the Grand Prix track in Singapore. It was reported, and we also saw on the news that side, that the minister was then suspended pending investigation immediately. So it was very quick. It's not as slow as our own system. High-rise agriculture, has already spoken to that. The best practice in the world regarding expropriation without compensation can be found in Singapore. And this we learned when the High Commissioner indicated that after independence, the government decided to expropriate land for public use. And of course, there were negotiations that took place in that area. However, currently, most of the land, I think they said about 90% of the land, if not more than 90% of the land, belongs to the state and not to private owners. Chair, on the same day, after the engagement with the High Commissioner, in the afternoon, there was an engagement with the Urban Redevelopment Authority, which is the URA, and this also happened this took place on the 24th of July. The URA is an organization that reports to the Ministry of National Development, but it works with other government agencies like the Housing Development Board, Building Construction Authority, National Parks, and Council for Estate Agencies. It's responsible for the entire 734 square meters land area of Singapore, which comprises of a population comprising of 5.6 million people. The mission of the URA is to make Singapore a great city to live in, work, and play. The functions of the URA, it's basically to ensure that everyone in Singapore, they actually ensure that everyone in Singapore has a place to live in, and they have a place to work in, and they are comfortable while they're at it. If we look at the history of the evolution of the planning from concept to master plan in Singapore, and this is one of the functions of the URA. So they basically look at they deal with the master planning of the city state. So one of those is the evolution of the planning. As a country, it does not have much land, as I've already spoken to this. It then had to optimize its use because of the scarcity of land resources. So they needed to just ensure that they maximize the space and they optimize the little space that they have to ensure that people are accommodated. This involves allocating land for competing uses such as housing, commerce, industry, parks, transport, recreation, and defense, as well as determining the development density for various locations. The government of Singapore then designed and successfully implemented urban development plans such as the concept plan and the master plan. The concept plan, which was developed in 1958, is a strategic long-range land use and transportation plan that provides broad directions to guide Singapore's physical development. It also expresses the government's long-term planning intentions for the nation's territory as a whole. The master plan, therefore, is reviewed every 5 years, and this is now after the concept plan. So there came a master plan, which then becomes reviewed every 5 years. It's a statutory land use plan that guides medium-term, 10 to 15-year development. It also translates the ideals of broad strategies in the master plan into shorter-term detailed plans that guide the development of land and property. So the master plan shows the permissible land use and density for human, business, and recreation settlement that happens in infrastructure and construction projects in Singapore. The URA also performs a similar function to what municipalities perform in the South African Integrated Development Planning, which is IDP, as described in the Municipal Systems Act, that aims to link, special planning to achieve development aims, to give people rights to a safe and healthy environment, protection of poverty, housing, healthcare, food, water security, and education. The URA is responsible for land use planning, urban design, development control, design and planning lab, infrastructure planning, conservation of built heritage. So while they do this, while they are busy optimizing the space, they're also mindful of not losing their cultural heritage and their look and feel of their buildings also has had to be kept in the same, or rather as close as possible to their original form. They, of course, have challenges. They have aging population and changing household demographics. There's remaining competitive in a fast-changing world is also one of those challenges. Developing sustainability and closed resource loops, adapting to and mitigating climate change, being resilient and preparing for crisis, responding to advancements and new trends in technology. So these are remaining challenges while they are carrying on with their development processes. Integrated long-term processes, which is one of the functions of the URA, it uses an integrated planning approach that includes government ministries, as listed on the report, and other development agencies that currently are operating in Singapore. So, as I said, the concept plan was established in 1958, but then it moved. It also was reviewed also in 1971, and then there was also a 2019 review as well. This resulted in the development of the Jurong Industrial Estate, construction of the Changi Airport, road and rail networks, satellite housing towns, and reclamation of the Marina Bay. The concept plan of 1958 led to an initial cleanup and resettlement of people, because if you may check the history of Singapore, it was previously slums, so they had to change those slums into creating formidable human settlements for Singaporeans. So the review also took place in 1971, and the long-term land use plan was developed resulting from the majority of people being removed from kampongs into public housing systems. Further long-term use, land use structure plan 2022. This long-term plan maps out the long-term possibilities and vision for the future of Singapore, while the master plan provides a detailed statutory plan that guides developments for the next 10 to 15 years. The 2019 master plan provides a detailed and transparent statutory land use plan and regular reviews. Key features of the plan include polycentric development to bring jobs closer to homes, nature corridors to connect green areas, future development areas to give Singapore room to adjust for future plans. So all these plans are all good on paper, but if they don't turn into reality, then it doesn't necessarily assist the people of Singapore. So in terms of turning these plans into reality, most of the land then now belongs to the state, as I've already alluded. The state ensures that the land and buildings are developed according to the planning intentions of the master plan. Transparent and clear guidelines for both macro and micro controls are pretty much set to ensure compliance. I've also already spoken to their regulations and strict policies that govern the construction industry. Some of their planning strategies are economic, which is to sustain a robust and vibrant economy. I won't go deep into these ones because they basically state what exactly what do they do under each of these ones. So it's the economic one, the social one, provide a good quality and living environment. So they'll then build towns that are closer to homes and all of those things. And then the environmental ones, meaning they develop in an environmentally responsible manner. So Singapore is also very strict in terms of maintaining a low carbon footprint to try by all means not to contribute to climate change. So in terms of adapting to climate change, they enhance flood and coastal resilience. By 2100, Singapore may experience mean sea levels, and this is what the predictions from their agency stated, that they could probably experience mean sea levels that are projected to rise by 1 meter. Excuse me, sea levels could rise up to 4 to 5 meters at the confluence of extreme high tides and storm surges. Heavier and more frequent rainfall could prevail, and an increase in daily mean temperature of 1.4 to 4.6 degrees Celsius could then be. So a part of their development then is part of planning for these that may possibly come by 2100 in terms of the changes. They also utilize digital planning, which entails planning and development data, social/demographic data, people and vehicle movement, and crowdsourced feedback, as well as ground sensing. They use it mainly to understand home workflows, analytics for placement of amenities, because in Singapore, when they build human settlements especially for public use, they always make sure that there's close amenities so that people don't have to take transport to town. They must just find everything around them so they could be comfortable. They're using ConnectX, that is a one-stop portal for consultants to submit a coordinated BIM model to multiple agencies and for agencies to deconflict any regulatory requirements. Urban design 3D model and multi-scenario simulation are also used. These ones in particular got Dr. Mieza, who's the CEO of the Council for the Built Environment, very excited because he is a town planner. So he did actually indicate that they have these systems, but it's just the implementation part of it that is not so smooth in our country, based on either regulations or policies or all sorts of things. So in terms of sustaining the land and sea space, they create new developmental space on used land. They unlock underground space. We also noticed that there's a lot of road tunnels underneath the ground, beneath the ground in Singapore. Mostly the rail networks also operate underground. So they optimize use of sea space as well. They also optimize the use of land. I think, Honorable Chair, they said, yes, Marina Bay was also part of these projects where they had to utilize the sea space as well as land, where they had to push. So it's basically an extension of the CBD in a way. So here, apologies, Honorable Chair, here the committee observed that public housing is one strategy that is used to ensure that all Singaporean citizens have a place to settle. This is done through the National Savings Program. We'll speak broadly into the National Savings Program when we talk about the visit to the HDB, the Housing Development Board, I think it is. There are strict regulations and standards set up for contractors, and ConnectX is used to facilitate the communication between all agencies involved in all development projects. So if one agency were to, like, we'll take it in our case, if a plan moves from the town planners, it'll definitely then go to the IDT, if I may use that example. So all these agencies that would be involved in the same project would then use the same system, which is in the Singaporean case, that is the ConnectX system. On the following day, Honorable Chair, we visited the Housing Development Board, which is the HDB. This is Singapore's public housing authority. It plans and develops Singapore's housing estates, building homes, and transforming towns to create a quality living environment for all. It provides various commercial, recreational, and social amenities in the towns for their residents' convenience. The entity was established on 1 February 1960 during the nation's housing crisis, and it was tasked with providing sanitary living conditions to replace the prevalent unhygienic slums and crowded squatter settlements. It delivered and built 21,000 flats in less than 3 years. By 1965, within a decade of its formation, it had built about 54,000 flats. Singapore's public housing has housed an entire nation. Currently, more than 1 million flats have been completed in 23 towns and estates across the island. So, as I said, Singapore is a city-state, so there are towns. Instead of comparing to our system, I think those towns would basically be small municipalities, if we were to take it to our concept. So Singapore has 1 million flats that have been completed in 23 towns and 3 estates across the island. HDB flats spell home for 80% of Singapore's resident population, of which 90% own their homes. For over 50 years, the HDB has provided quality and affordable housing for generations of Singaporeans and is proudly continuing to do so. The HDB's environmental policy outlines its commitment to environmental management and green practices. So in order for HDB to do all of this, it needed supporting pillars. It's to successfully meet their goals, they would basically be supported by three. Their strategy is actually defined by three crucial fundamentals. They are supported by other government agencies as well in the ministries, mostly the Ministry of National Development. So the concept of a sole agency is in charge of public housing, enabling more effective resource planning and allocation. This concept made it possible to secure the land, raw materials, and manpower for large-scale construction to optimize results and achieve economies of scale. So by adopting a total approach covering planning and design, land assembly and construction, the housing task was then carried out as whole through allocation, management and maintenance. So they also have strong government support, as I've already spoken to this one, to make sure that this is running smoothly. Out of this discussion, the committee observed that the HDB story began with the taking over from its predecessor, the Singapore Improvement Trust. Preserving through challenges, HDB has since established public housing in Singapore as a benchmark for excellence. HDB sprang into action, and in less than 3 years, it built a number of flats, as alluded to in the report. HDB is now a home for more than 80% of Singaporeans. Every working individual has a Singapore Provident Fund account. From almost 80% of each individual's take-home salary. 37% is meant for retirement, 6% for, apologies for this, Chair. So out of every working Singaporean salary, 37% is set aside. So retirement is 6%, medical aid, insurance 6%, and home buying is 23%. So that makes up the 37%. Another 37% comprises of the employer contribution, which is 20%, and employee contribution of 17% towards the SPF fund. So this then was designed to encourage all Singaporeans to own homes. Like, for instance, the committee was also given an example of the fact that if you are a newly married couple or you are planning to get married, then you can literally go and submit your application to the HDB, and you would then take preference based on the availability of the flats, because then they're encouraging most Singaporeans to be owners of homes. The HDB provides housing to citizens who are unable to afford private housing, most of which are coming from slums. Let me just quickly fix this. Immigrants do not have a mindset of buying homes in Singapore. So the compulsory SPF account that is established through government policies encourages them to buy homes and encourages them to have a sense of belonging. We're also told that most people that stay in Singapore are foreign nationals. They would either be coming from India or Malaysia or any of the neighboring countries that are close to Singapore. So when the new government of Singapore took over, they then, after independence from colonization, through the Land Acquisition Act, the government was able to expropriate land from private owners. As a result of this, and I've already spoken to this one, 90% belongs to the state. In instances where flats were built in a manner that depicts the land that was not optimally used, government can acquire it and with equitable compensation and upgrade the block of flats according to current regulations and standards of construction. The owners or occupants of the flats may be required to pay up to 30% of the upgrade costs. This is termed the selective upgrading program. Government currently spends $1 billion Singaporean per annum on housing subsidies. So the government really subsidizes, gives huge subsidies to Singaporeans so that they can own homes. Citizens are allowed to buy twice from the HDB, but one has to own one flat at a time. So after you finish paying for one flat, then you're also eligible to buy another one, but you can't own them concurrently. Mortgage loan financing remains available for citizens who want to purchase private housing. Collection of rates and maintenance of public areas is done by town councillors, as each town has its own councillor that manages the upkeep and management of towns. I earlier spoke to the fact that this would be, in our model, it would depict municipalities instead of towns. In Singapore, the prime location building housing scheme allows for people to enjoy living in prime areas of the city-state. So part of the public housing, they've also gotten themselves acquainted with the fact that there are people who can earn more than others, who can then afford to pay more. So it's basically per affordability. So some that can afford the prime location public housing scheme, they are also allowed to do so. And an example of this were flats in the Marina Bay, that is literally an extension of the city center. Government support necessitates lower bond rates and citizens are highly subsidized. The HDB reports to the Ministry of National Development, which is one that reports to Parliament regarding its budget. So the expenditure and everything else is just dealt with through the ministry. Because Singapore subscribes to Asian values and principles, a family unit is strongly encouraged, and as a result, heavily subsidized bonds are mainly granted to married couples. Single applicants were only incorporated into the scheme in 2017, but only qualify for single units, either one bedroom, which is a 36 square meter, costing about 341 Singaporean dollars. The LGBTQI plus couples would only qualify to buy houses in an open market. And even so, they can only buy as per individuals because the marriages of LGBTQI plus community in Singapore are not recognized as per their regulations. The HDB offers a range of flats ranging from 36 square meters, 1 or 2 rooms, 90 square meters, 4 rooms, to 100, that range about 110 square meters per size. The subsidy amount depends on the size and the location of the flats. If you're taking an inner city flat, which is called a mature area, it would definitely be more subsidized than out of town areas because of the price range, because it will be expensive. Honorable Chairperson, we then visited the Bugis Village Shopping Hub. This project was initiated in 2020 with Capital Land holding a 3-year tender for the integrated management of Bugis Village and adjacent Bugis Street. Capital Land, as a private company, had to revamp the area and enhance connectivity to ensure the integration of the Bugis Village to Bugis Street. To do this, the project included the construction of a new link bridge connecting Bugis Street to Bugis Village. It also needed to ensure sheltered access to the Bugis MRT station or from the Bugis MRT stations. As I said, honorable members, the rail network operates underground. So if you go to each and every mall, you'd find that there's a train station underground, the underground level. So that's basically how they operate. Plans were also explored for the integrated development to house day-to-night market, a retail incubator, and areas for co-living and co-working. A section will also be converted into a hub offering brands, a space to innovate new ways of creating curated brand experiences and pilot new concepts. Part of the plan is to provide open display areas using a series of loose and colorful container boxes to be named the Bugis Box. It will be a modern interpretation of street market with trendy street food, quirky gifts, and trending fashion accessories. Well, the shopping hub is basically divided into 2 segments, one being the high-end shopping mall and the other being a low-cost shopping mall collection of outlets. And then this would then include in the near future the new development that's currently taking place in Bugis, which will also include the Bugis Box. We then, honorable members, visited the Parliament of Singapore, where the delegation was hosted by 2 members of Singaporean Parliament, who were accompanied by the High Commissioner, the Deputy High Commissioner and First Secretary of the Mission, Mr. Vikram Nair and Gantiam Po, accompanied by 2 officials, hosted the delegation and shared insights regarding parliamentary operations. The chairperson of this portfolio committee outlined the purpose of the visit and introduced the delegation. The findings there were that 80% of the Singaporeans live in public housing and 20% lives in private residences. The most important pillar of Singapore is that all Singaporeans must have a home. No foreign nationals allowed to buy landed houses, landed housing being freestanding houses. Because then they consume a lot of land. And so there's a specific demarcated area for them to buy public housing. And this will obviously be part of the block of flats that we spoke about earlier. First-time married couples are given a grant by the government to buy homes. Public schooling and healthcare are the most crucial priorities of the Singaporean government. As a result, most children go to public schools, and parents who fail to send their children to school are basically fined by the Singaporean government. Even though education is the biggest budget currently, the health budget is fast approaching and most likely to surpass education due to the needs of the population. One of the reasons for the increase of health budget is that there are many health programs that have been established to encourage Singaporeans to eat healthy and exercise. Integrated buildings are meant to ensure that communities have all the required amenities at a walking distance from their houses. Provision of shelter is also provided from home to public transport, as the weather can be extremely hot or too rainy, depending on the weather patterns. So if you move from your own house to a bus station or a train station, you are likely to have cover over your roof in Singapore. The unemployment rate in Singapore is very low, ranging from 1% to 2%. There are more available jobs than people who live in the island. Excuse me, Chair. Locally, there's a job mismatch because the available people do not have the necessary qualification and skills matching the available job requirements. So the former Prime Minister started a program to encourage Singaporeans to constantly upgrade themselves so as to be able to find better employment and in turn increase their income base. Parliament uses the Westminster model, like our own Parliament. Its sittings are once a month on Mondays, except for June and December, unless there is an emergency. Most time by the members of Parliament is spent in their constituencies because they're required there. I think one of the MPs that we were with in the meeting indicated that they spend about the whole week in their constituencies because their people require them there. Members of Parliament are allowed to have other jobs while they're public representative. It's only the ministers that are full-time employed by the government because they have to solely focus on the state's deliverables. Members of Parliament hold weekly constituency meetings that are on the ground 3 or 4 times a week because that's what's expected of them. MPs also earn a clean wage with no extra benefits, and the wage comes in a form of an allowance, which is 19.6 Singaporean dollars per annum, which they have to contribute to their own political parties for sustainability thereafter. So we were told that they don't necessarily earn much in that way because they have to now reinvest it back to their political parties. Legislative assistants for secretarial assistants are appointed to their constituency offices, and they are given an allowance of 150 Singaporean dollars per annum. I think this is 1,000 per annum, yes. Singapore has an anti-corruption bureau that reports to the Ministry of Home Affairs and Commercial Affairs. The Corrupt Processes Investigation Bureau, CPIB, investigate corruption allegations against members of Parliament and reports to the Prime Minister of the state, then the President. This entity ensures that Singapore has a corrupt-free government. The Prime Minister is also responsible for the passing of the budget for ministries and government agencies. Singapore has no illegal immigrants because of the nature of security at their ports of entry. They don't have porous borders. Singapore has a death penalty for drug traffickers. If one is found with a 15 milligrams of pure heroin quantity, that warrants a death penalty. Honorable Chair, we then visited, excuse me, the Holland Village. The background of the village is that it was established in the early 1900s by the Singapore Dutch community. Holland Village was the former home of British Army personnel and their families. Plantations, colonial estates, and nurseries once dotted this neighborhood, and its European influence legacy can still be seen in the architecture of its quaint shop houses and low-rise building. The district was named after the English architect Hugh Holland, but was colloquially known as behind the flower garden in the Hokkien dialect, in reference to its close proximity to the Singapore Botanical Gardens. So over the years, this village has garnered a reputation for being a creative commune and an incubator for local artists, musicians, and entrepreneurs. The main stretch of Holland Village along Lorong Mambong exudes a subtle European charm and is a trove for alfresco cafes, restaurants, and popular lifestyle outlets. Sorry, Jim. This is a revitalization project of an older mixed-use housing and commercial area. The project is run by the URA in partnership with several private companies that specialize in housing services as well as commercial leasing. The project is managed by the Far East organization. The development consists of the residential apartments, serviced apartments, retail, office, and community spaces. It has a residential component named One Holland Village Residences, which offers 296 residential units split into 3 blocks. The lower half of the first block will house Quincy House, made up of 255 serviced apartments, while the upper half will have 27 luxury private units under the private company Quincy Private Residences. The second tallest block, a 34-story residential tower, will house about 248 units under the company Serene. So this is the block that when we were in Singapore, it was still being constructed. Community spaces will be split into 4 main compounds: Village Square, Village Green, Village Central, and the Village Deck. These spaces aim to foster interactions within the community and for visitors to relax in. The commercial zone was to be completed in mid-2022, while the residential component of the Holland Village is estimated to be completed by the end of 2024. From this visit, the committee learned that the Holland Village apartments are more expensive than the HDB apartments. A bachelor pad or 1-bedroom apartment ranges from 2 million Singaporean dollars, while a 2-bedroom apartment will cost anything from 2.4 million Singaporean dollars and above. The integrated establishments in the village, where all amenities are as close as possible to the communal areas. The apartments are also fitted with upmarket appliances. The lowest costing apartment are fitted with the swag appliances, while other higher rating apartments are fitted with Vista appliances. And we were told that Vista is the most expensive German appliance in the market, apparently. Honorable Chair, would now move to the visit to the Singapore Corporation Enterprise, SE and DP Architects. The SCE, we'll start with the SCE and then move to DP Architects. The SCE was an idea from the then Senior Minister Goh Chok Tong, who saw an important role for the public sector in international cooperation. It was initially set up by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Trade and Industry in 2006. It's currently an integrated arm of the Enterprise Singapore, a statutory body of the Singapore government. It shares Singapore's development models and experience with foreign governments through projects and collaborative initiative. It is an aggregator of expertise from both public and private sector to advise and implement relevant solutions on a cost recovery basis. It facilitates and coordinates access to expertise in Singapore. The value proposition is that it adapts Singapore's experiences to deliver customized workable solutions in the market it operates in. It's able to customize each project with the relevant fields of expertise to meet the client's requirement. It also can integrate this expertise into a single deliverable to the client. It can also organize training visits, conduct advisory, and enter into project implementation to share the relevant experience and transfer of knowledge to their clients. The SE is access to diversity of expertise. The area of expertise span across the key public sector pillars, urban solutions and master planning. So they basically work with the URA, they work with the HDB, public administration and governance, smart economy and ICT, technical vocational education and training, water resource management. So this 3.7.1.4, Honorable Chairperson, talks about basically where the footprint, their footprint within the African continent. They did some work in Kigali, Rwanda. They built capacity for urban planners, and they developed a detailed master plan and design for small-scale property developments to townships for 3 districts at Kigali CBD. They also worked in Bujumbura, where they conceptualized the strategy development framework for the city, including the master planning consultancy in a tripartite partnership with the government of Burundi and UNDP Burundi. There was another work that was done in Tanzania, Guinea, Republic of Benin, master planning in Ponte, Ngok Airport in Gabon, Libreville Airport. So this, Chair, is basically a range of, as I said, the work that they've done in the African continent and their footprint. So, and I hope members would be able to, or rather were able to go through these ones, as I'm not going to go deeper into them. Then we move into DP Architects, Chair, because we met both of these entities at the same time and they had combined their presentation to the committee. The history of DP Architects was founded in the DP Architects, Chair, was founded in 1967 with a deep concern for the built environment and the need to create architecture of excellence that enriches the human experience and spirit. With 56 years of experience in 18 international offices, DP Architects employs 900 employees worldwide. Capitalizing on the DPA's architectural expertise, DP Urban is aiming to continually improve the way in which it plans and develops cities, leveraging on technological advancements while ensuring a workable model of the economic feasibility, environment enhancement, social development, and human capital involvement. The DPA offers end-to-end services for urban planning and master planning, which are listed below. This is now part of the DPE. So these are basically departments within the DPE itself. Observations that and findings, basically key learning areas for the committee on this one, were that this SCE successfully completed more than 200 projects and training programs in over 40 countries. The SCE's footprint in Africa includes East Africa and all the countries that I've mentioned. The DPA uses an APD, Attributes of Purposeful Design approach, which is a design tool and practice to systematically analyze the sustainability criteria of the built environment projects. This was first launched in 2015, but was revised in 2021 to incorporate criteria to meet the sustainability needs of the Singaporean Green Plan 2030. It also encompasses the key sustainability criteria for most built environment projects that they have to address to achieve 8 major sustainability outcomes for social, environmental, and economic value. Then after that, Honorable Chair, the delegation visited the Marina Barrage, which was a barrage that was envisioned by Singaporean first Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, more than 30 years ago in 1987, action of a massive cleanup of the Singapore-Kallang rivers. Built across the mouth of the Marina Channel, between Marina East and Marina South, the Marina Barrage is an engineering marvel and an icon of Singapore's success in sustainable water management. It provides water supply, flood control, lifestyle attraction. The barrage forms, and we'll share a video with the committee just after this report. The barrage forms Singapore's 15th reservoir and the first right in the heart of the city. There are 5 rivers that flow into the Marina Reservoir, which makes it to be the best island's largest and most urbanized water catchment area, spanning 10,000 hectares. The Marina Barrage also acts as a tidal barrier to keep seawater out, helping to alleviate flooding in high-risk, low-lying areas of the downtown district, such as Chinatown, Jalan Besar, and Geylang. When it rains heavily during low tide, the barrage crest gates will be lowered to release excess water from the coastal reservoir into the sea. If heavy rain falls during high tide, the crest, or in heavy rain falls during high tide, the crest gates remain closed and giant drainage pumps are activated to pump the excess water out to the sea. As the water in the Marina Basin is unaffected by the tides, The water level would then be kept constant, making it ideal for all kinds of recreational activities such as boating, windsurfing, kayaking, and dragon boating. Next to the barrage is an underground water desalination plant that was built through a PPP. Singapore has 4 taps. That is the rainwater, the desalination water, recycled water, and water that's imported from Malaysia. One point that was made, Honorable Chairperson and members, was that previously Singapore used to mostly depend on imported water, but since the construction of the barrage and the establishment thereof, this has now been regulated. There's now lower demand for imported water in Singapore. This is now based on the barrage. The latter was previously the most dominant until the barrage was built. So there's currently less dependence on Malaysia for water. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, the committee appreciated lessons from the SA High Commission in Singapore, Parliament of Singapore, Singaporean government, and agencies that shared insights regarding operations, governance, and innovations that can be adopted to assist South Africa, especially pertaining to a sustainable and environmentally viable built environment and infrastructure. Then, Chair, the report would be noted, and I then submit the current report as drafted by the support personnel of this committee for the committee to consider and adopt, as well as make inputs prior to adoption. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Nola. Shuaib, I think the report that you have given, you have painted a picture, even for those that did not attend, a very detailed, precise report that has been given of our Singapore study tour. Thank you so much, honorable members. This is our report. Can you then note hands? I can see Honorable Hicklin's hand so far. Honorable Hicklin was also part of the team. Maybe some additions. Honorable Hicklin?
Thank you so much, Chair. Yes, just a few additions from me. First and foremost, Nola, you did an amazing report. It really captured the essence of exactly what we were, what we experienced, and thank you so much, because your report was superb. I just want to make 1 or 2 comments. On page 13, you spoke about the fact that Singapore is a perfect example of where expropriation without compensation actually works. And I agree with you. This particular instance, it really is an example of where EWC does work, but you need to put it into context. Malaysia, Singapore is a dictatorship. It isn't a democracy such as we have in South Africa. So you need to put that into context. The government takes all decisions. End of story. Yes, there is a degree of interaction, and people play a part in deciding things, but it is within set parameters. It is a dictatorship. There are no discussions of as whether the government will own land or not. It's not up for discussion. It's not like we went out and did public consultation. That did not happen in this instance. They are 100% ruled by the government, and therefore it is a dictatorship. And when the Singaporean government decides, or the councils decide, that they are going to upgrade building A and move people to another area, you may be given a choice as to which area you want to move into. I accept that, but there is an element of Group Areas Act that goes with it. And why I say that is the government determines the racial and ethnic profile of the people who are going to be living in that building. So many Singaporeans, so many Malaysians, so many non-Singaporeans, so many Indian descent. And so you are not given free rein in terms of who your neighbors are. So they determine the makeup of the population of people who live in that building in a government housing initiative. When you are buying in a private area like the one Holland Village, you are paying exponentially more than when you are buying in a government housing institute. But then you can more or less choose your neighbors. In a government instituted building or government instituted development, the government determines who your neighbors are. They racially profile the number of people and the groups of people that move into that environment. On page 22, where you spoke about the different kinds of flats that were available, you and I noted that even you as a single mother who had more than one child were not allowed to own more than a two-roomed flat in a government instituted housing scheme. And that for me also needs to be put into context. The Singaporean government favors the family structure. So you as a single mom who would need 3 bedrooms could not buy you can buy with a friend, but you could not buy yourself as a single mom a 4-bedroomed house in a government subsidized apartment. There are subtleties that make Singapore's fantastic. I loved it. It had so much to offer, but there are subtleties that need to be noted. On page 22, on page 30, also where we spoke about the education, 24, when you spoke about the education, I lied. No, that's page 24. The one part that I think we can really, really, really benefit from, when we were speaking to the first the Urban Renewal Agency and the Housing Development Board spoke about it, but it was very, very well brought home by the members of the Parliament that education is a priority, and Singapore is driven by the maxim of creating a workforce we want, which determines the types of jobs that will be created, and therefore the types of skills that will be cultivated. That means the upskilling of all workers is encouraged. Automation is used at all levels to alleviate mass job creation projects such as EPWP, and education is provided even to the youngest children, determined by the economy and the job needs of the future. In essence, education and upskilling of Singapore means reskilling the nation for the future. So they take a look at how they believe Singapore should look in 5 years and change their school curriculum to accompany what that vision is going to need. They are going to need 5% more doctors. They are going to need 10% more accountants. And so they push those skills into the schooling program, the higher education program, to ensure that when the learners leave the schools, they have the skills sets to facilitate their moving into higher education with those skill sets already. Another thing that when you spoke about the marine barrage and when you look at the developments within the multiplex complexes, even the wastewater that comes out of the toilets, it has multiple uses. They use the bulk waste to drive electricity, and the water waste gets recycled and put back into the system for industry use. So every single solitary part of Singapore is geared to a reuse, recycle mentality. Nobody drops a single thing on the ground. Everything has its bin on the street. There is no litter at all. And it's a total mindset that is inbred in Singaporeans from the time that they are very young. The buildings are built upwards to be very high and downwards because they are built down with the underground section either being for underground being a metro, or underground being the recycling of the water waste and the solid waste. And also there are tunnels, like the tunnel that went from Changi Airport to our hotel went under the sea, but the tunnel from Changi Airport to the center went under the roads. So you have roads built on other roads. There is such amazing land mass use in Singapore, and South Africa can learn so much from what we saw when we were in Singapore. Absolutely amazing. But really, Nola, 1,000 congratulations. Your report, absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much for capturing.
Thank you, Honorable Ekhuruleni. There is a hand of Honorable Mjobo. Honorable Mjobo, I saw your hand.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mjobo.
Good morning to you, Chairperson, and members of the Portfolio Committee and the parliamentary staff. Good morning. And thanks for the opportunity. And I'd like to welcome the report. And it's a true reflection of what we visited in Singapore. And thanks, Nola, and the team. Chairperson, Honorable Ekhuruleni covered me, especially on the issue of expropriation bill and the issue of land in Singapore. And on the report, I'm very happy with the issue of water in Singapore. So thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mjobo. Honorable members, just few points that are must correct here, because as we are from South Africa, and Singapore has its own sovereignty. One is that the democracy that we have in South Africa is the democracy for South Africa. So in Singapore, that country goes to its elections before it has the people that are its leaders. So we need then to respect the way at no stage that Singapore has been put on the map as one of the countries that breaks human rights. So as much as we may not like their democracy, as Honorable Ekhuruleni was saying so, but we can't say that it has a dictatorship. That one is for Honorable Ekhuruleni. This committee can't do that. I think we need to respect that as part of this portfolio committee. It has its own democracy that the people of Singapore, that they respect. As I indicated earlier, the report has been captured clearly precisely, it is clear, it gives a picture even to one who is not there. Just one thing that I think we must appreciate and we have learned. I think Honorable Ekhuruleni came on that one, and I think Nola came on it, is that their education system is made in a way that it can develop even careers in the near future, not only for now. I think that's something that having Honorable Kacha going there and looking at that, it's something that needs to be applied in South Africa. I think as this portfolio committee, we have said it several times that when it comes to the expropriation bill or the expropriation act, it is really good for our country. We've seen how it has made people of Singapore to be part of those that are owning land, in fact, especially for public use and public purposes. So we must appreciate that as the team that went there. I just want to check whether, there's Honorable Mashele's hand. I just also want to check whether from the members that did not go there, having read this report, because this is the report that we need to own and adopt as the portfolio committee. Honorable Mashele, over to you, and followed by Honorable Van Schalkwyk.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm covered. I think you have summarized it well. Thanks. I'm covered. Safe to say I appreciate the manner in which the report is drafted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mashele. Honorable Van Schalkwyk.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Let's also note that Honorable Van Schalkwyk indicated that at 10 they will be having load shedding where she is, so her line may not be clear, but you are welcome, Honorable Van Schalkwyk. You may switch off your video so that at least your line is better. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Indeed, the load shedding is on. But I want to greet Honorable Chairperson members as well as our support team. And thank you very much, Chairperson, through the support team for the elaborated report. We really appreciate it. And we know you represented as well as the team from this portfolio committee. Chairperson, I would like to zoom into the issue. There's been an elaborate focus on social housing and the different kinds of infrastructure that they are having there. But pardon me if I misread it. I haven't seen anything in terms of health and safety infrastructure, specifically in terms of clinics or hospitals, police stations, and some things like that, to get an idea of best practices which we can take from them. But also, Chair, it's been mentioned in the report that there's no illegal immigrants, there's no porous borders. So do we have an indication of the ports of entry infrastructure that they have there in order for us also to benchmark accordingly? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Sharon. I don't know, Honorable Ekhuruleni, whether it's an old hand or you want to come back.
I'd like to come back. Thank you, Chair. There was, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Sharon, I'm going to answer through you, Chair, just a little bit on the health the health situation, every housing estate that is built either has a primary healthcare facility or a clinic or access to a hospital within a 4-minute walk or drive of that facility. So that is incorporated in every single solitary building estate that comes up, whether it's a private estate or whether it's a housing estate built by the government. Every single housing estate has a clinic with a referral system, if necessary, to a larger clinic in every single one of these villages. So where you have a 15-tiered building where you've got 4 tiers below the ground for parking, for a metro system, for cars, for shopping, you will also on street level have a clinic or a doctor or pharmacies within a 4-minute walk or a metro stop. That happens in every single solitary village. And in terms of your Central Provident Fund that every single working person in Singapore contributes to, a portion, whether it's 6% or 8% of the money that you pay every single solitary month, covers your medical. So your medical is provided by the state automatically. Your contributions to the Central Provident Fund, 17% is paid by you, or 20% is paid by you, and 17% in addition to what you pay is made automatically by your employer. That is used, that Central Provident Fund is used to fund your medical, your retirement, and your deposit on your flat. That is all automatically included. So there is, it's almost free access to housing, to healthcare, right across the board. And healthcare is immediately available. Yes, whenever you go into a shopping center, there are pharmacies where you can buy your regular plasters, headache pills, all your over-the-counter medication. There is a primary healthcare clinic or a doctor within walking distance of your estate where you live. I actually
Honorable Hicklin, I understand your hand was up even before Honorable Sharon raised this. Can you then go to what you were going to say?
Yes.
We appreciate this response. Thank you so much.
The thing I wanted to say was one thing that Her Excellency Lobe asked about, and it's something that I have put on to the agriculture group, is that she asked me whether there was no way, one of the biggest problems that they have in terms of accessing meat coming out of South Africa is that the South African state vet has not signed off the paperwork for us to export meat to Singapore. That's the only thing that they are lacking in terms of exports from South Africa, and I have already passed that on to my colleagues who deal with agriculture. And that's the only thing I wanted to add. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to answer, Sharon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hicklin and Honorable Sharon. If I may come in, is that that country has low crime rate. There you can't say police are visible or what. You don't have street people, those that are staying in street, whether they are street children or adults. One thing, if you commit a crime, whatever crime, first thing that they do to you after warning you is to cane you publicly. So I think that one, it discourages anyone who would like to commit crime. When we were there, a female was to be executed. In fact, she was executed for dealing with drugs. So it's a country that does not tolerate any crime at all. I think on the issue of health, you have got a response that whatever that they're building, I think even Nola indicated schools, health facilities, shopping malls are part of what they do. Within the housing development, it's not only the one for social, even for those bigger apartments, if I may say it, it's the private owners. That when we were there, we even laughed when we were told which appliances are used when you are going to privately own it and for social housing. Very funny, we were all shocked that a certain appliance that we see it in South Africa as the one where you very few own it is the one that is utilized there for social housing more than the private owners. And the private owners, they get the one that is more advanced than the one that we see in South Africa has more advanced. Though I won't mention the products here because I'm not promoting it. Maybe in the group, you will see which one, if we say in our RTP houses, is the one that is being utilized there in Singapore. It's clear they are borders, they are not porous at all. You can go there and commit crime. Not at all. You won't be allowed there. Thank you. Any other? Can we then get a seconder? I think Honorable Jobo, when she spoke earlier on, she was also proposing that we adopt this report as the report for this portfolio committee. May I get then a seconder in the adoption of this report?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hicklin, for seconding that. This is then a part of a report for this portfolio committee. Then can we get to number 2, the second item, the issue of the police station? The issue of the police station. Shuaib? Nola, you may be released. I think you indicated that you would like to be released after this report.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the acknowledgement of the work done by this committee, by the support staff of the committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Good morning again, everyone. Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I think with this report, members may recall that we completed the work on this report. So we do not need to go through the content of this report. What we need to do is just to page straight to the bottom of the report, where we speak of to be considered or to be noted. The only thing that the meeting needs to do today is to amend report to be noted to report to be considered. Now, if you indulge me, Chair, the table of Parliaments, the National Assembly table of Parliament, Mr. Kaso, pointed out to us that if we put recommendations on a report such as this one, that if we say to be noted and the House does not discuss the report and the recommendations, then the report's resolutions that guides the executive authority, the minister, to amend certain things is not binding on the executive authority. And therefore, it's better to put report to be considered. The reason why we put noted there was to make certain that we can have another bite at this to check and monitor whether the minister, the executive authority, has in fact acted on the recommendations. We were guided, however, to say that it's better to put to be considered there, and that the House then takes a resolution on this that binds the minister to amend what we said in the recommendations. So, Chair, it does not preclude us from still doing our monitoring and checking on the serious matters that we found as we processed this petition. Chair, I think that suffices and assists the committee to say yes or no for a report to be considered. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Shoaib, and I, honorable members. The reason this report is back, Mr. Denson indicated to me that there is this issue that is being raised by the Secretary to Parliament, the Secretary to Parliament, not the Secretary, the person, the office, in which Mr. Kaso raised this issue, and we agreed that we must bring it to our first meeting so that when it is deliberated, we are clear. But when I read the report, I know we deliberated on this, but I thought that I must propose another recommendation that says, as the portfolio committee, as part of us following this up, because we thought we would be doing that, but now we are asked to do this. It's an item that says, as the portfolio committee, we need to visit that even if it's a 1 day, noting that in this term that we are in, that is now up to the end of September, we won't be allowed. We are not allowed a visit to site, the oversight visit. We are not allowed to do that, maybe in the next term. But I want us to put this so that as part of us following this up, we go to that police station together with Ekhuruleni. We will inform them, SAPS will inform them, and the department will inform them to indicate how serious are we as this portfolio committee in following up what has been brought to us as a complaint. I just wanted us to add that on our recommendation. It's only that, but may I then I'm inviting hands so that we then not say we are noting, we then put it as what the Secretary to Parliament has indicated we must do. Honorable Ekhuruleni and Honorable Jobo, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's invaluable, Chair, that you do pay a visit to the Ekhuruleni, the police stations, because from what I am understanding, we are still not 1,000,000% certain whether the debt actually has been eradicated completely or not. And I think it's vital that the committee does undertake an oversight visit to make sure that what has been agreed to has actually taken place. So I concur with you 100%, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Ekhuruleni. Honorable Jobo.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the report. I like to support the issue of visiting the police station, because based on the report, on the presentation we received both from police and the department itself, we are not satisfied as members. So therefore, I think the visit is going to help us so that we can adopt this report next time with confidence. So thanks, Chair. Support the visit.
Thank you. Do we have another hand? Oh, okay. we have then been advised by Mr. Tenzin that let's not put in a recommendation, but as part of our program, let's put that we will do a visit to this, but we just correct that the report to be considered. I think we all agree on that one, and it is going to be part of our program. I think we are through with the report. Thank you so much, Mr. Tenzin. One of the things that you are here to do is to advise us as this portfolio committee, but we'll then follow this up. I think one of the things that we've managed so well is when we see red flags, we go there and then resolve that. Thank you so much, honorable members. And then we will go to our minutes now.
Chair?
Yes, Shuaib?
My apologies, Chair. Let us perhaps just process this one through a mover, please, Chair, so that it can be officially noted as such.
Okay, no
Thank you.
problem. May I get a mover then? That we adopt and say the report is to be considered?
Mjobo, Chair, I move.
Thank you, Honorable Mjobo. A seconder, please.
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hicklin. Thank you so much, honorable members. On our minutes, it's your turn, Lwazi. You have to speak, Lwazi. You don't just show minutes. You say the minutes that were held. This is your part as the acting secretary.
Apologies, Chair. Chairperson, these are the minutes of the 14th of June 2023, where we were briefed by the Department of Public Works regarding parliamentary villages.
Then, okay. Honorable members, I think we did receive these minutes earlier on. Are there any issues, corrections before we move for the adoption? Grammatically, spelling, and all that. Honorable members?
I didn't see anything, Chair.
Okay, then when we get a mover for the adoption of the minutes.
I move, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mjobo. Maybe then get a seconder, please, honorable members.
I'll second that, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Silo. Thank you so much. Do we have another set of minutes? Lwazi?
No, those were the only minutes, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you so much, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, as I indicated earlier on, that we must have an item which is an announcement. I have received correspondence from Honorable Hicklin that she has been moved to be the Shadow Minister of Health, so she will no longer be serving our portfolio committee. Today was her last day as part of this portfolio committee. We congratulate her on that achievement, and Honorable Hicklin has been part of us since we started in 2019 when we came in as an alternate that did not miss any single meeting at that time. when the then shadow minister was moved to another portfolio committee, and Honorable Samantha Graham Murray moved to be the shadow minister, Honorable Hicklin was made a deputy shadow minister. We have worked so well with her in all these years. Yes, we have had our differences in the portfolio committee, but we have always managed to overcome that. She has been part of all our oversight visits, and the last one, we went with her to the study tour. I understand that she will be replaced by Honorable Wendy Alexander, who unfortunately had to leave the meeting from the message that I got, as she has another meeting that she has to attend. So from now on, she will be part of our meeting, hoping that Lwazi, you got her contact details so that it is easy for you to communicate, send information to her, and also invite her in our meeting. I will then, Honorable Hicklin, not you speaking today. Today is our day. I will then invite other honorable members to say just a few words to our Medi, as we usually call her. Honorable members, can you just say a few words to her, as she is going to be in the Shadow Minister of Health, knowing fully well that is where her previous life was. All the best, Honorable Hicklin. Honorable Trink. Honorable Trink.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Chair, for me, it comes as a bit of a surprise. I was hoping that we'd be able to interact with Honorable Hicklin or Maddie, as we know her when we meet informally. But certainly from the side of the ACDP, we wish her well in her new position. And certainly she has made an indelible impact on our lives. And she will be sorely missed on this particular portfolio committee. But certainly, I think we will have the opportunity to bump into each other in the corridors of Parliament and pick up where we have left off. I think the friendships that are established, that's what happens when you meet later on. You kind of just pick up where you've left off. And so from the ACDP side, from my side and the ACDP, we wish her well in her new portfolio and new position. Thank you, Chair.
I've not. And thank you so much, Honorable Trink. Honorable Jabba.
Bengisizakhuluma my person wakhe uThim.
Honorable Mashele.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair, for an opportunity to bid farewell to my person. One wants to appreciate the time that we've shared here in the committee. Probably is the times that we have differed that brought us together. Like a glue. We'll always miss you, and I hope we'll meet in the corridors. I'm not sure whether the one coming in should be my person. You must give her the tips on how you became my person. Probably the audition will start. But nevertheless, we want to appreciate
order member.
Hey, don't try that silly. That was on a lighter note, but we appreciate the good times we've been together, and we will still meet in the corridors of Parliament. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mashele. Honorable Siwisa, is she still in the meeting? Honorable Siwisa? Not sure. She indicated that she will also be traveling in KZN. Any other member that would want to say a few words? Honorable Medi, Honorable Hicklin, our sometimes, especially to me.
Chairperson.
Oh, okay. Honorable Sharon.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I would also like to echo the sentiments raised in terms of bidding farewell to our dear Maddie and thanking her for the political maturity that she has shown, even though we are coming from different political formations. That didn't hamper us to work together as an excellent team, DPWI. And also we could have taken guidance from each other, and really with Honorable Sam departed and now it's Maddie again, but I believe, Chairperson, that we are the kind of team who are able, who has shown to be working well together with everyone, and we are wishing Honorable Hicklin well in her future endeavors, and we are welcoming our new team members, and we know we can work good together. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Van Schalkwyk. Honorable Zondo.
Thanks, Chair. Greetings to everyone. I also want to pass my word of gratitude from Honorable Hickling and wishing her well on his new roles. It was good to work alongside. He welcomed me well when I was new in this portfolio. Tried to guide me and show me how to interact, and there's a lot that I've learned through her. So I wish her well. He may continue to be a good person that he is. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Zondo. I think on that note, Honorable Hicklin, will definitely miss you. She was sometimes my doctor when I was not well. She would send a message saying that you do this and this and this. I think she did that to all of us. She was a mother, I think, to many of us. We will definitely miss you, Honorable Hicklin. All the best in your new endeavors and in your new role. Thank you. I don't know whether you would like to say a few words, Honorable Hicklin. Is she
Just
still?
one. Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to be the shadow deputy of health, not the shadow health. But I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss my people desperately. You have been my parliamentary family for 4 years, and as you all know, I love health. I've always loved health, but I grew to love the Portfolio Committee on Public Works. We worked together as such a solid team. I have always said that DPWI has the best team made up of amazing people and the most phenomenal support team any committee could ever have. And there is a part of me that's really, really sad to leave you. I cried a lot. They were tears of joy that I'm moving to health, but they are also tears that I'm leaving my family. But we'll all be meeting in the house and we'll all see each other. And Tim, you'll always be my person. So I'm not giving Wendy any tips because I'm not letting you go. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for welcoming me as much as you did and for being the most amazing group for me to learn with. I think we all learned a lot. I think there were very few of us who came into this portfolio knowing as much as we know about the construction industry. And I think we've all grown together. And I think that's what's made this portfolio so special. Shuaib, you have been a rock beyond anything. Nola, Inez, Khadija, I can't name you all, Satabi, you have been fantastic as the members of the portfolio, so fantastic have been our support. Thank you so much for everything that you have done. You really have made my journey such a pleasure, and I'm going to miss every one of you, but know that we will still see each other in the house. I thank you and send my love and blessings to all of you. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ekhuruleni. Definitely you'll miss your child, the Agrima South Africa. That I know the love that you have for it, but we'll keep in touch. What is good is that you're not going to another country. We'll still see each other on the corridors of Parliament. Thank you so much. On those few words, honorable members, thank you so much for the always when we deliberate, we always deliberate progressively, constructively when we deal with issues as this portfolio committee. As much as Honorable Wendy is not with us now, she had to rush out to another meeting. We welcome her with open arms. This is a family. We work together as this portfolio committee. I think you will tell her that. We do have our differences, of course, because we're coming from different political parties, but we have one common interest to ensure that the people of South Africa that made us to be members of the Parliament get all the information that we have to get from the portfolio committee, and we play our oversight role as there in the rules of the Parliament and in the constitution of this country. With those few words, honorable members, thank you so much again for gracing this meeting. Thank you again to our team that always prepare the best reports for us to engage in this portfolio committee. On that note, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Salo.
Thank you.
To come and assist